when you're trying to help someone, if you're not really involved or present or connected with that person, what's happening? You might have the best intentions, but what is exactly happening? The correction's happening. Yep, you're trying to correct in that situation, but without the connection.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Remind podcast. I'm Dr. Ashleigh Morland and I'm joined by David Masterton. Today's episode, we are going into one of my famous quotes, which is correction without connection leads to trauma.
I love that one because the first time you said it, I think you said the opposite way around. So good on you for getting it right. I think the first time you said it, it was
It fell out the
it
wrong
was
way.
a connection without correction or something like that. So, but it's been since you've said it, I can't tell you how many times I've repeated it to people because it's a really powerful and simple thing to just remind you that when you're trying to help someone, if you're not really involved or present or connected with that person, what's happening? You might have the best intentions, but what is exactly happening? The correction's happening. Yep, you're trying to correct in that situation, but without the connection, it equals trauma.
It's almost as if there's an obsession with right and wrong. That if I am right and your right looks different to mine, if I agree with you, i.e., connect with you, join you in your rightness, then it makes me wrong. And that feels threatening. And so that's one way this can come about. I see that in particular in adult relationships. Obviously, parent-child or caregiver-child relationships is a little bit different.
Different, yeah.
There's a real behavioralist approach where people expect children to conform or perform even just to meet behavioral expectations or standards. But this is relevant to any relationship, husband-wife relationship, leader and team relationships. It doesn't matter what circumstance or environment you're in. It is so important to prioritize connection ahead of correction, because once their prefrontal cortex is switched off, anything that you're trying to say to them doesn't get through anyway. They're just in a survival response. They're not, it's like,
What are they going
I'm
to feel
here, but
more?
no
Yeah.
one's home. You
Yeah.
know?
What am I going to feel more? The fact that you're right or the fact that I feel that you're just telling me what to do?
Yeah.
Or something like, and it was interesting, as you mentioned, that whole thing about everyone needing to be right. Well, if you and I were facing each other and I said, let's go right, we're going in two separate directions.
Yeah.
But we're both correct, aren't we?
Yeah.
And then here I am telling you, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Or it's like a bee trying to tell a fly that honey's better than poo, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to show you something. So if you're watching on the if you're listening just on the audio podcast, maybe this might be one you want to jump on YouTube for, because I'm holding up some pens. I'm going to show you something. So I want you to imagine that my mic is whatever is the problem, right? Or this person's having a tantrum because something has happened. So the thing that's happened, it might be someone said something, someone's done something, but they have been triggered into some kind of trauma response of a tantrum, of shutting down, of whatever it might be. Now, if I am on the other side of it, facing them, going, well, no, this is what happened. And they're going, no, this is what happened. Or there's some kind of talking at each other, then that is going to be activating trauma responses in each person, because there's a need to defend, there's a need to protect, there's a need to attack. And so that face-to-face kind of, and I'm not talking about face-to-face as in doing it in person, I'm talking about two people are coming at each other. So this one's trying to correct this one. Now, in the connection first model, this person is having a stress response, a fight response, a flight response, a tantrum, or whatever is going on for them. Whether they're a child or an adult, it doesn't matter. You need to remember that. This person, through observing this person's behavior, the other person comes around here. that connection says, I'm with you. I've got you. There's this problem. I can see you're struggling. I'm here. And as soon as this happens, as soon as this one comes around to join the other person in their problem, this person eventually starts to co regulate. And this person starts to come back to safety. And as this person comes back to safety, the one who had the problem, the other person can then be in a position to be in their problem with them, and together they solve it, as opposed
Mm.
to this person's problem creating a problem for this person.
I've got a great example.
Let's do it.
Let's try this one. It's been coming up a little bit in my sphere lately, and it's about people saying, "I'm so lonely, no one cares about me."
Ooh.
Okay, so that person is deep in that, and yet they're telling you. You might be with them, you may not be, and that can feel very invalidating for the person who's receiving that message, because, well, for starters, here I am, and you're telling me this in my presence, which means in this present moment, you're not alone. And secondly, if I didn't care about you, why have I come to spend time with you?
Wow. Isn't that huge? So, person one
Yep.
expresses, I feel alone and no one's there for me. Person two receives that as an attack on them. So
Well,
they're going, so
absolutely.
hear me out. So they're
Yeah.
going to go, well, that's not true. I'm right here. You're not alone. And so, how different is that? So, that's this. That's where this person has a problem. The problem sits between them, and they're
Mm,
both looking at it from their own perspectives.
correct.
How different is it? Is if we look at that and go, I'm here. That must be so hard.
Mm,
I'm with you. Tell me more. Tell me more about
abso-
that.
absolutely.
How different is that?
Well, it's huge, because yes, the triggering is massive. Trust me, because I've had it said to me quite recently, quite a
Yeah.
fair bit, by a number of people.
Yeah.
Two people. I'm not going to exaggerate. Two. Um, but it's not just once. It's not twice. What if it's every conversation you have with them? Because only so many times you can say, "I'm here. I'm here." What does that feel like? I'm getting as much out of this as, all the other listeners.
So you're wanting an answer right now. Well
Yeah.
then, okay, so
At what point do you sort of
how would
go,
you, first of all, I think permission's a really important thing. So I would go, wow, that's really hard. That must be really hard to feel that way. I'm so sorry. I'm
mm,
with you. Do you just need to be heard right now, or are you looking for solutions? And see, that
mm,
opens up, because that's saying, I'm with you. I'm here to serve you. Do you want solutions, or do you just need me to be here with you and say, wow, that really sucks?
yep,
Because isn't it true? If it was true that that person felt alone and that person felt like they had no one, oblivious to the fact that you're clearly there,
mm,
that would really suck. That would be hard, right?
oh, 100%.
Yeah. And so sometimes people just need to have a rant to be heard. And how
Agreed.
frustrating is it when someone comes with a solution when you don't want a solution? You just want to be heard. You just
Yeah.
need to get it out.
Yeah,
And so I
absolutely.
find that line to be really empowering. It's
Mm.
it's a real it
It's
is a
asking the
beautiful co-regulation line, because it's
mm,
permission. It says, "Do you just need to be heard right now, or are you looking for solutions?" And
yeah,
if they say, "I am sick of feeling this way. I need a solution. I can't go on feeling like this anymore. I'm sick of it." That is your permission to start coaching. So that is
mm,
permission to go, "Is it really true that you're alone? What's the evidence of that?" And as you can continue to ask more and more questions, never tell someone they're wrong, because you're correcting them. Even in connection, if you tell someone how they're wrong, you take away their ability to learn and unpack and expand their own mind to see
mm,
things differently. So once you're connected, the best approach is asking questions. Because if you ask questions from a genuine place of curiosity, even if you think you know the answer, if you ask questions, you're taking assumption and judgment out of it.
Mm.
So if you ask questions like, when was the last time you felt like you weren't alone?
Mm. Love that. Yeah.
What's the evidence that you're alone?
Mm.
Are you alone now? See how that's really different to you're not alone, I'm here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because if you said, you're not alone, I'm right here, there's assumption and judgment and it feels attacking.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Whereas if you can say, are you alone now? See how now they have to question the validity of their own thought and they go,
Mm.
oh my gosh, no, I'm not. So is it really true that you're alone? Well, I guess not. That feels really good, doesn't it? So if you're not alone, what are you? Oh,
Mm.
I'm supported. Yeah, you are. I'm right here. I've got you.
So I guess the biggest outtake of all of that is if you're going to correct someone, you're going to be telling someone what to do or giving advice,
There's a
right?
lot of explaining, telling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, to connect with someone, you're not telling them what to do at all. You're asking questions, is what
Yeah.
I'm getting from what you're
Yeah.
saying. So it's really,
Because questions are an invitation.
mm,
And questions don't feel quite so threatening. So, for example, if my kids are misbehaving, instead of saying, don't do that or do this instead, I will tend to ask a question like, if we were treating each other really kindly right now, how would we be treating each other? Like, what would
mm,
we be doing? What would that look like? In a business setting, if we were behaving in accordance with our values right now, what would that look like?
mm,
How would this conversation go? How would we chase up the money that's owed to us if we were living our values?
as opposed to you should have done that and you should have done that. And you
Yeah.
need, I'm going to change the policy
Yeah.
so we can, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly. And so see how one is I'm with you, but first of all there has to be consent. Like I said to you, do you just need to get this out or are you looking for solutions? I'm happy to be in whichever role you need.
Mm. Which,
But
which basically is a question. So it's sort of like
yeah.
when you lead with questions first, as opposed to coming in to fix a problem, and put your hand up if you've done that before. I've
Yes.
seen I've
I
seen a
used to be the
nail.
chronic fixer.
Yep, yep. I've seen a nail whacked on the head with a hammer,
Yeah.
as opposed to that's not what they want. And so when we're asking questions first, absolutely, because
Yeah, it's so powerful.
in the previous examples, um, as frustrating as it was, I always led with questions because I could, as much as I could sort of logically tell them, actually, you're not alone. I feel invalidated. Well, if you really are alone, why am I spending time here being told that, that what I'm doing is not good enough? That
Yeah.
was a sensation or a feeling I had within me. However, what came out was, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. Um,
Yeah.
unfortunately, when I sort of say, "Look, do you feel lonely now?" The answers actually were yes. What do you
Mhm.
say? What do you say to that? Okay, well,
Well, because you asked if they felt lonely, and they
hmm,
did.
yep,
So it's possible to feel lonely because your mind is believing the story that you're alone.
absolutely. And
So it's about
regardless,
questioning the story, not the feeling, because the feeling is real
yep,
because the feeling is happening in response to a story, but it's
mm,
about questioning the validity of the story. And
which,
not in a condescending way or a
yeah.
judgy way, but
And look,
supportive way.
and in my situations, we didn't even go down that path because it was really quite simply they were sitting in the mud. I just sat with them.
Yeah. I guess
Um,
the extension of that is what happens if, like you said, it's a recurring thing and you repeatedly ask, do you just need to be heard right now, or do you want a solution? There's a few scenarios here. Maybe they say, I
Mm.
just need to be heard. Well, that's fine. The first time, the second time, the third time. But what about the 13th time? And they just want to be heard. Now you're playing into dysfunction.
Which is going to be exactly what we should be covering. At what point
Yes.
do we have to look at the connection part and the
Yeah.
question asking and then sort of go, okay, when does this become, I want to say trauma bonding, but I don't think it's
Well, it,
necessarily
it
that.
effectively is. It's
Right,
trauma bonding, and you're playing into a drama triangle.
right.
So you're helping them get their needs met in a dysfunctional way.
Mm,
And for me, I have basically a three strike rule. If it's the same issue that someone's coming to me for, having a massive rant or a massive whinge, and I can sit there and I can be the ear and I can hear them out.
mm,
Absolutely. But if it's repeatedly happening and there's no desire for a solution on their end, at some point that feels not a super good use of my time and
mm.
becomes a bit draining. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'll say, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. And it sounds like this has been going on for you for a little while. Are you ready for a solution yet? Or are you still just needing to be heard? And then I'll say something like, I'll set a boundary and say, look, when you're ready for a solution, that's something that I really feel like I could help you brainstorm. I could help
Mm,
you with that. But I can't be the person that you continue to come to be heard around it,
mm,
because then I'm not supporting them to stay in their drama, in their victimhood, etc. I'm still letting them know that I'm available. I'm there. I care about
absolutely.
them. I love
Mm,
them. And I'm happy to support them when they're ready to take that next step towards a solution. And I wouldn't do that the first or second or third time. And you know what really opened my eyes to that? When someone said to me, oh, I don't really tell you my issues because every time I do, you just give me a solution. And sometimes I don't want a solution. I
mm.
just want to be heard. This is one of my closest friends who
Yeah.
told me that they didn't come to me because sometimes they didn't want a solution. And I was a first time problem, must have a solution. I had never been taught just how to hold space, how to hear someone out, how to support someone through something without fixing the problem.
Mm.
Not even me fixing it, because I got pretty good at not doing that, but about encouraging them to fix it or wanting them to fix it
Well,
before they were ready.
going straight to the correction
Yeah.
without the connection first.
Yeah. Well, about understanding what they needed in that scenario.
Yeah, well, I love this whole thing about when you're telling someone, you're correcting them. When you're connecting with them, you're asking them.
Asking.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
really, I think to wrap this one up, because we'll make this a short one. When you're talking with someone, or if someone's coming to you and you're wanting to sort of go, how do I connect? It's to start with, am I asking questions or am I telling them?
First of all, I would say validate. Even
Mm,
if it's irrational, even if how they're behaving or how they're feeling is completely irrational and you haven't done anything wrong and they're going crazy, it's real for them. Their
mm,
behavior is showing you that it's real for them. So whether or not you think it's real, whether or not you agree with them, whether or not you want to defend yourself, it's all redundant because it's real for them. And so
mm.
in that moment, you need to choose, is my relationship and connection with them more important than my need to defend myself when I know that I haven't done anything wrong?
Or my need to fix a problem.
Or my
Yeah,
need to fix the problem.
beautiful.
Exactly.
Love it.
And so if that's the case, then validate first. Go,
Mm,
wow, that must be really hard. Like, I'm so sorry to hear that. What do you need? Do you need to be heard? Do you need a solution?
mm.
Or does now feel like the time to talk more about that, or do you want to come back to it? Do you want to revisit it later? Because more often than not, if someone is really dysregulated, trying to explain rational or logical thinking to them, or trying to even ask them questions to lead them to a conclusion, is not going to get you anywhere. They have to regulate first. They have to
Mm.
feel connected and safe first to be able to switch off the survival centers of their mind and open the more expansive, curious parts of their brain.
But someone who's heightened and all of that, they can certainly still argue. They can
Yes,
defend their point of
because
view,
it's
and
survival.
they'll use their logic to try and do that. I know I've been accused of that myself.
Yeah.
So
100%. I hope this little
yeah,
practical, role play has been helpful for people. Let us know if you want us to do some more little shorter episodes with some role play and
mm,
actual,
that's,
playing out scenarios. I think it's really valuable. So we'd
I
love to
like
hear
it.
from you guys. Do you want more of that? Give us some scenarios that you want us to play out. We'd love to support you with that.
Absolutely, it's been awesome. Thank you,
All right.
Ash.
Till next
Catch you all
time.
next week. Bye
See
bye.
ya.